Imagine, for a moment, an AI that doesn't just write lines of code for you, but one that truly understands your entire project, your coding philosophy, every single decision.
Yeah, like a true development partner. What if they could actually remember every crucial detail, all these little nuances?
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a close look at a really fascinating article, Mastering Gemini CLI for Advanced Software Development.
We're going to dig into how you can transform Gemini CLI, moving it from what might seem like just another code generator into something much deeper, a really comprehensive, almost like intuitive development companion. And the thing is, it's not just about raw speed anymore. It's shifting towards truly deep understanding.
So our mission today is to basically give you a roadmap. We'll unpack its unique advantages, things like that massive 1 million token context window we mentioned, and maybe surprisingly, completely free access. Then we're going to explore 11 professional tips that can really unlock its power.
Think of this as your shortcut, sort of, to really mastering AI-assisted development. It feels like a fundamental shift in how you can approach your work.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the basics. What actually makes Gemini CLI stand out in, this increasingly crowded field of AI tools? What's its core advantage?
Well, the first thing that really jumps out is just the sheer capacity. It boasts a massive 1 million token context window.
Yeah.
And to put that in perspective, that's significantly larger than many other tools you might be familiar with. It means the AI can literally hold a full project overview in its mind all at once. It can see the entire code base, basically.
And beyond that, impressive cognitive power, there's also the free tier access. You just need a Google account. It feels like this really democratizes advanced AI development, doesn't it? Removing those typical cost barriers.
Exactly. It really lowers the barrier for entry for anyone looking to experiment with AI, especially at scale, which is, pretty game-changing. But before we jump into those tips, maybe we should quickly cover how to get it installed, because that's your starting point.
Right. Good point. So for anyone listening who's eager to jump in, what are the core prerequisites? What do they need to get Gemini CLI up and running smoothly?
Great question. Okay, first things first, you'll need Node.js and NPM. We always recommend grabbing the LTS version, that's the long-term support version, of Node.js right from their official website. That's the stable one you want. Once Node.js is installed, just do a quick check. Verify it by running node-v and npm-v in your command line window. Make sure they're there.
Simple enough. And then installing the CLI itself.
Then it's just a simple command. npm install -v at Google Gemini. That installs it globally. That -g flag is important, lets you use it from anywhere in your terminal. The very first time you run the Gemini command, it'll prompt you to authenticate. Just type auth and log in with your Google account. It walks you through it. It's quick, it's guided, and really the immediate big takeaway from its design is that it offers this huge context for exploration with a super low or even zero cost barrier.
So building on that idea of easy access, our very first professional tip actually dives deeper into that free authentication method we just mentioned. Tip 1, code without cost anxiety.
Right. Logging in with your Google account gives you, get this, 1,000 requests per day, completely free. This really opens up endless experimentation. It lets you play around with ideas without that, meter constantly running in the background. It's great for just learning the ropes or for your personal projects.
That initial cost barrier, it just disappears, which is huge. But is there a catch for, say, more serious, maybe production applications?
Yeah, good question. For production apps or for your CI/CD pipelines, that's continuous integration, continuous deployment where you need higher stability and guaranteed service levels.
Yeah.
A paid API key, probably from Google AI Studio or Vertex AI, is definitely the more reliable choice. You get higher limits, more stability.
Okay.
But for anyone just starting out, that free access just removes all the cost worries. It enables endless free experimentation.
So once you're comfortable with the setup and the authentication, the next really critical piece, according to the article, is something they call the project's constitution, the Gemini.md file. Why is that such a fitting analogy?
It really is. It's like the foundational document. This master configuration file lives right in your project's root directory. And importantly, it applies to every single interaction you have with Gemini within that project. It literally helps the AI understand your project's, its soul, its core identity.
And how does it actually do that? What kinds of things go into this constitution file?
So you define your context. This includes your tech stack, your architecture. You might say backend, Java Spring Boot 3.1 connected to PostgreSQL, or mention your front-end frameworks, that sort of thing. Then you set standards, things like methodology, test-driven development, or maybe code style, Google Java Style Guide. This helps keep things consistent. And this part is really powerful. You can define a persona. For example, you could tell it, act as a senior DevOps engineer specializing in Kubernetes. Or, when writing Java code, act as a developer with 10 years experience focusing on clean code and design patterns.
Wow. So the Gemini.md file isn't just about listing technologies, it's about embedding the project's very DNA into Gemini's understanding. How does that translate into a concrete advantage for consistency or maybe future development?
Exactly. By establishing that foundational understanding, the context, the coding standards, even the persona you want Gemini to adopt it, just ensures consistency across the board. The AI isn't just guessing anymore, it's operating with this deep predefined knowledge of your project's core principles. It establishes that baseline understanding.
Okay, shifting gears a bit towards efficiency. Let's talk about automating workflows with custom/commands. This feels like where you really start to see some significant time savings, right?
Oh, absolutely. This is super powerful. You can basically package complex processes, these multi-step workflows, into simple reusable commands. A single command can trigger a whole sequence of operations. The article gives a great example, a refactor and dock command.
Refactor and dock. Sounds pretty specific. What exactly does a command like that do?
So this command defines a very precise multi-step workflow. It starts by analyzing code complexity. Then it suggests refactoring options, maybe presented in a different format so you can see the changes. If you approve it, it applies those changes. Then it generates documentation, puts it in a specific docs refactoring directory maybe, and it even crafts a descriptive git commit message for you, all from one command.
That's impressive. And a really smart tip from the article is managing this Gemini commands directory with Git. What's the impact of doing that for a development team?
It means you can share these awesome custom workflows across your entire team. Everyone gets the same power tools, so everyone benefits from the automation. It streamlines complex tasks, making them simple, shareable, and totally repeatable actions.
Okay, so if that Gemini.md file defines the static rules, the constitution, then the memory system is for the dynamic, evolving knowledge. It sounds like a completely different kind of understanding, almost like, as the article says, Gemini's second brain.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. This is where you store solutions and decisions that are made during the development process, like in real time. It's constantly learning and adapting based on your ongoing interactions with it.
So you can add specific details, maybe like memory add. Okay, the staging database connection requires SSL using this specific CA certificate. It seems incredibly granular.
Exactly. It's perfect for capturing those unique configuration solutions that popped up during a build. Or, specific debugging steps you discovered that were particularly tricky,
Mhm.
or even unique environment setups that are just hard to document clearly anywhere else. And the beauty of it is Gemini will automatically reference this knowledge when you give it a related task down the line.
Yeah.
It remembers every critical detail from your past interactions.
So how is this memory truly different from the Gemini.md file we just discussed? What's the practical distinction for a developer using it?
Well, think of it like this. Gemini.md defines the static foundational project rules, the constitution. The memory system, though, scores dynamic, evolving knowledge, stuff that builds up as you work and interact with the AI.
Gotcha. Okay, speaking of safety nets, this next tip, checkpoint restore. It sounds like having save slots in a video game, but for your code. That must give you a tremendous amount of freedom.
Exactly. Checkpoints provide such a crucial safety net. They let you try bold, maybe even risky ideas without that constant fear of breaking the project. If something goes sideways, you can just roll back to a previous known good state. I remember this one time I was refactoring this massive legacy code base, convinced I had it all mapped out perfectly. One accidental git push force later. Man, I truly wished I had a checkpoint right before I did that. This feature is a real sanity saver.
Oof, I can definitely imagine. So how should developers best use these checkpoints? Strategically.
Yeah, you want to use them strategically, definitely before any major architectural changes, or maybe when you want to A/B test two different ways of implementing something. And it's really important to note, checkpoints are also a prerequisite if you want to safely use the advanced YOLO mode, which we'll actually get to in a bit.
Ah, okay.
But fundamentally, they enable that fearless experimentation. They provide a clear path back if things go wrong.
We often hear about TDD, test-driven development, but this next tip, integrating behavior-driven development, or BDD, seems to take things a fundamental step further.
It really does. TDD tends to focus on specific code units, like individual functions, testing the internal workings, make sure the function does what it says. BDD, however, shifts the focus to the assistant's behavior from the user's perspective. Does the feature work as the user expects? The good news is you can actually teach Gemini this crucial difference.
Okay, and how would you go about doing that? How do you teach it BDD?
You simply update your Gemini.md file again. Tell it to prefer BDD, maybe specify using Gherkin syntax. That's that given when then structure for writing scenarios. It makes the tests read almost like plain English, which is great for communication. Then you could create a custom command, say generate BDD test. You could take a Gherkin scenario like user login success and generate a complete ready to run test file for you. This really helps bridge that gap between the business requirements, what the user needs, and the actual code being written. Ensures everything aligns. It's perfect for integrating with tools like Cucumber or Cypress too. It aligns development directly with user behavior and specific business requirements. Mid-roll sponsor, read placeholder.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're working through 11 pro tips for Gemini CLI. This next one, multimodal capabilities, is where things get visually interesting.
Yeah, this is a powerful one. The core idea is when you show the AI what's wrong, instead of just trying to describe it in text, the results tend to be dramatically, significantly better. Visual context is just key.
Okay, so instead of just typing out, there's a rendering error on the button, you'd actually show it the error. How does that work in practice?
Exactly. You can provide, say, a screenshot of an error by attaching it, like at screenshot-error.png. And maybe you even provide an image from your design system spec, like a design-system-spec.png. Then you'd ask Gemini something like, analyze the error in the screenshot and correct the React component based on the design spec image. It's like giving it eyes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. You could even create a custom command, maybe check compliance, that checks if a UI component visually matches a reference image from your design system. Imagine the QA benefits there.
So visual context offers greater clarity.
Definitely. Leading to more accurate analysis and solutions.
This next feature, file references, allows for what the article calls hyper-specific context. It sounds like it's about being incredibly precise with what information you feed the AI.
It is. Instead of overwhelming it, you provide only the most relevant files to Gemini for a specific task. This prevents, information overload and really helps the AI focus its attention where it's needed most at that moment.
Can you give us an example? How might this be used in a real development scenario?
Sure. The article suggests creating a command like validate API endpoint. This command could reference your API specification file, maybe at apopinapy.yml, and your API documentation conventions file, like at doxb-conventions.md, and then the specific controller file you actually want to audit at usercontroller.java or whatever.
Yeah.
It then evaluates that controller against your established OpenAPI spec and your internal conventions, maybe providing a full compliance report. This approach really helps automate quality assurance in a targeted way. It offers focused context, improving the AI's accuracy and efficiency.
Right. So with all this context, we can give Gemini the Gemini.md. The memory file references, managing it efficiently seems absolutely key. Key to getting the best performance and the most accurate results from any AI interaction, really.
You're spot on. Managing context is crucial. You can clear the context entirely, using clear when you're switching to a completely new feature or task. Ensures a fresh start. Or you can compress it with compress when the context history is getting large, but you still want to retain the main conversation thread, the overall flow, without losing everything. And then there's a more advanced concept the article mentions, context chunking. Instead of loading the entire project every time, you strategically load only the most relevant files using that at reference syntax we just talked about.
So why is actively managing the context so important for optimal AI performance? What's the payoff?
Well, it helps the model focus on what's truly important for the current task. It reduces latency, so you get faster responses, and ultimately it yields more accurate results because the AI isn't getting distracted by potentially irrelevant information from earlier in the conversation or from unrelated files. It optimizes the AI's processing by providing only the most relevant information.
Okay, this next tip, auto-accept modes, sounds like it's all about choosing your level of automation, giving you control over how much Gemini does on its own.
Exactly. Gemini offers different auto-accept modes that kind of fit your specific risk tolerance and the needs of your project at that moment. There's the none mode. This is the safest. You use it for production environments or when dealing with sensitive data or simply when you're just learning how Gemini works and want to review everything. No prerequisites there. You're always in full control, manually approving each change. Then there's safe mode. This is probably good for most development environments or for complex analysis tasks, times when you're generally comfortable with Gemini's decisions but still want a safety net. It does require you to have Git set up and a clear rollback process in place just in case something unexpected happens.
And then there's the boldly named YOLO mode. Tell us about that one.
YOLO mode. Right, this is really for experimental projects, maybe throwaway prototypes, or perhaps for tasks that are very heavily defined by specs or covered by robust tests where you have extremely high confidence in the outcome. Vulnerable admission. I still wrestle with prompt drift myself sometimes when an AI just kind of veers off course unexpectedly. So having these modes to explicitly control the output is incredibly helpful. YOLO mode, though, definitely requires you to have those established checkpoints we talked about earlier and a really solid test suite. You need that safety net if you're going to let it run wild.
Makes sense. So these distinct modes, they empower developers how?
They allow tailoring the level of automation to specific risk tolerances and the unique needs of each project or even each task.
All right. This brings us to our final tip, number 11, and it focuses squarely on Gemini CLI's biggest competitive advantage. Leveraging, but also being cautious with that massive 1 million token context window. What does that immense capacity truly allow Gemini to do?
That 1 million token window, it allows it to function almost like a software architect. It can genuinely see the forest and the trees simultaneously. You can literally load an entire project's context. Imagine referencing at SGRC, at tests, at config, at docs all at once. And then you can ask it high-level questions like, analyze the entire code base and suggest architectural improvements based on modern best practices.
Whoa! Just imagine the kind of architectural insights you could get on an entire complex code base.
Yeah.
That's actually incredible, the depth of analysis.
It is truly mind-bending potential. But, and this is important, there are pitfalls. You need to be aware of them.
Yeah.
One common issue with very large contexts is something called lost in the middle. Models can sometimes pay less attention to information that's buried deep in the middle of a very long context window. It's a known challenge.
Okay, that's good to know. And what else should developers keep in mind when working with such a huge context?
Well, larger contexts also inherently increase response times, just due to latency. The more information it has to process, the longer it might take to give you an answer. And finally, this is maybe the most crucial point, don't use this massive context window as a crutch for poor project organization or bad architecture. It's an incredibly powerful tool, but it's not a replacement for fundamental good practices like modular design and clean code.
So managing that huge potential, what's the biggest challenge there?
I'd say maintaining the model's focus on the relevant parts and actively working to avoid those lost-in-the-middle issues. That's key.
So stepping back, what does this all mean for you, the listener? These 11 tips, they feel like more than just a list of features, don't they? They hint at something larger happening.
Absolutely. They're like building blocks for a fundamentally new kind of workflow. They really work together to transform Gemini CLI from just being a passive tool into an active, almost intelligent development partner.
A partner that understands your specific processes, remembers your past decisions, and actively helps you build better software faster and maybe with more confidence, too.
Yeah, the future of AI-assisted development, it feels like it isn't just about generating snippets of code anymore. It's really moving towards deep understanding and genuine collaboration between human and machine.
It makes you wonder, what does mastering a tool like Gemini CLI really mean for the future of developer roles? Will human creativity shift even further towards that higher-level problem-solving and strategic design? Letting the AI handle more of the routine implementation details. It's fascinating to think about.
We really invite you to experiment with these tips. See how they might transform your own workflow or your team's workflow. The toolkit is right there for you to explore and master it.
That's our deep dive for today. Thank you for joining us.
Till next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep building better software.